It was a warm, breezy night in early June. A perfect evening for graduation parties and teenage freedom. But by morning, 3 women were gone. Their purses untouched. Their cars still in the driveway. Their cigarettes left behind. Welcome to Midnight Index. Tonight, we return to a ghost story. With no ghosts. Just a house, a porch light, and a gaping hole where 3 lives used to be. Let's flip through the index. 1. The day they vanished. Saturday, June 6, 1992. Springfield, Missouri. Population, just under 140,000. The kind of town where neighbors still wave. Churches line the corners. And kids ride their bikes through tidy cul-de-sacs. That afternoon, Stacy McCall and Suzie Streeter, known to everyone as Suzie, graduated from Kickapoo High School. They wore caps and gowns, smiled for photos, made small talk about what came next: college, cosmetology, a trip to Florida. They were full of plans. That night, the girls had every intention of celebrating. They bounced from one party to the next. Roughly 3 or 4 total. One party got broken up. Another was too crowded. Eventually, they landed at their friend Janelle Kirby's house around 1 a.m. The original plan was to spend the night at Janelle's. But at the last minute, Suzie decided she wanted to sleep at her own home. It was quieter, more comfortable. She even convinced Stacy to go with her. By approximately 2:15 a.m., both girls were dropped off at Suzie's house at 1717 East Delmer Street. Sherrill Levitt, Suzie's mother, was already home. She'd spoken to friends earlier in the night and was believed to be in bed. What happened between 2:15 and 8 a.m. remains unknown. But by sunrise, they were gone. At 9 a.m., Janelle Kirby returned to the Delmar house. She was there to pick up Suzie and Stacy for a trip to Whitewater Park in Branson. But when she knocked, no one answered. All 3 vehicles were still in the driveway. The porch light was broken, and glass covered the front step. They swept it up, assuming someone had accidentally knocked it over. The front door was unlocked. Janelle and her boyfriend stepped inside, and nothing made sense. The house was quiet. The TV buzzed with static. Purses were lined up neatly in the living room. Makeup bags left behind. Toothbrushes untouched. Cheryl's cigarettes, her most consistent habit, sat on the armrest. She never left them behind. Never. Even Cinnamon, their small Yorkshire Terrier, was still there. Alive. But terrified. Shaking violently. Hiding under furniture. The Kirbys tried calling. Got no answer. Then checked the answering machine. There was one new voicemail. Odd. They listened. And then deleted it. They claimed it seemed like a prank call. But the police would later suggest it might have been critical. It was never recovered. Later that afternoon, Stacy's mother Janice came by. She didn't touch anything. Didn't sweep. Didn't tidy. She walked in. Looked around. And immediately felt something was wrong. Janice filed a missing persons report. And the Springfield 3 entered local legend. 3 women. 1 house. 0 witnesses. 2. Who were the Springfield 3? To understand the weight of their absence, we have to understand who they were. Sherrill Levitt was 47. Petite, dark-haired. Meticulous. She was a respected hairdresser at New Image Salon in town. A single mother. She'd raised Suzie mostly on her own. Friends say she was thoughtful, independent, and had a dry sense of humor. She had recently purchased the house on Delmar Street, a modest, 3-bedroom home with a shaded yard. She was proud of it. It was supposed to be a fresh chapter. Suzie Streeter was 19. She had platinum blonde hair, blue eyes, and an electric presence. She wasn't the quiet type. She rode motorcycles, had a loud laugh, and loved music. At Kickapoo High, she wasn't the valedictorian, but she was unforgettable. She was artistic, sharp, opinionated. Suzie was set to start cosmetology school, following in her mother's footsteps. She'd just broken up with a boyfriend with a questionable past. But she seemed optimistic, focused, moving forward. Then there was Stacy McCall. 18. Quietly beautiful. Long, light brown hair. She was the peacekeeper. Sweet, reliable. Her family described her as kind to a fault. Never drank. Never pushed boundaries. The kind of girl who called her mom when plans changed. She had a trip to Florida planned that summer. Sunshine. Beach towels. Disney World. All of it, already packed. These weren't women hiding from something. They weren't running. They were building. Living. Planning the next day. So when they vanished, it was like someone had cut a thread mid-sentence. Who could do something like that? And why? Let's look at what happened next. And how police unraveled everything. A quiet home. 3 women. No signs of a struggle. No forced entry. No good reason for them to disappear. Now 3. The immediate aftermath. June 7, 1992. 9 a.m. A humid Sunday morning in Springfield. Birds chirped. Lawn sprinklers clicked on. And the Delmer house sat strangely quiet. Janelle Kirby, Stacy and Susie's friend, arrived with her boyfriend. They were dressed for the day. Sunscreen, swim bags, and towels in hand. The girls were supposed to go to Whitewater Park, an all-day splash fest that usually started early. It wasn't like Stacy or Suzie to flake without warning. Especially not both. When no one answered the door, the Kirbys stepped onto the porch. That's when they saw it. The shattered globe of the porch light. Shards of glass scattered like breadcrumbs across the concrete. They swept it up. Innocent enough. But in doing so, they erased the first potential trace of evidence. The door was unlocked. They walked inside. It wasn't ransacked. There were no overturned tables. No broken windows. But it didn't feel right. All 3 women's purses were inside. Stacy's purse had her ID. Cash. Even her prescription meds, none of it touched. The beds appeared unslept in. Toothbrushes were still in their holders. Susie's makeup was still in the bathroom. No one had packed for the day. They had vanished before even getting started. The static of the television filled the room. It buzzed low and eerie. No channels. Just white noise. Like a vacuum where life had been. Cinnamon, the dog, refused to come out from under the bed. She trembled. Refused food. She hadn't used the bathroom inside. Which meant, whatever happened, had occurred fast. Later that day, Janice McCall arrived. She had expected her daughter Stacy to call. To check in. Or even come home. When no one answered, she walked into the house. She saw the purses. The TV. The dog. And she knew. A mother always knows. She didn't touch anything. Didn't sweep the glass. Didn't pick up the phone. She called the police. By then, the crime scene had already been compromised. Over 10 people had walked through the house. Some to check on the women. Some just out of concern. Some even rearranged furniture. One person vacuumed. Another tried to make the bed. Everyone meant well. But their instincts, to help, to fix, to clean, may have destroyed the only evidence they had. Was it kindness that ruined the case? Or would the scene have told us nothing either way? 4. Police missteps, evidence, and early suspects. The initial officer who arrived treated it as a missing persons call. Not a crime scene. No yellow tape. No evidence collection. The house was not sealed. Family members were allowed to come and go. Objects were moved. The crime scene was not photographed in detail until later. Eventually, the Springfield Police Department realized what they were dealing with. A triple disappearance. With no witnesses. And no ransom. They began taking statements. Canvassing neighbors. Interviewing classmates and family. One neighbor recalled hearing a loud engine around 3 a.m. A vehicle speeding off. But they didn't see who was inside. Police looked at people close to the victims. Old boyfriends. Co-workers. Anyone with motive. That's when a name surfaced. Robert Craig Cox. Cox was a convicted kidnapper. A former Army Ranger. With ties to another murder, Sharon Zellers in 1978. Though that conviction was later overturned. He had a reputation. And in 1992. He was living in Springfield. Working at a dealership. Dating a woman who worked with Stacy McCall. When questioned. Cox said he was with his parents the night of the disappearance. His parents later contradicted that. Said they weren't sure. The timeline didn't match. Still, police couldn't place him at the scene. No witnesses. No prints. No DNA. Years later, in a jailhouse interview, Cox would make a chilling claim. He said he knew what happened. That all 3 women were dead. And that they'd never be found. When asked why he wouldn't reveal more, he grinned. "It's not the right time," he said. Police dismissed it as manipulation. But the possibility lingered. Was Robert Cox playing a sick game? Or was he telling a truth too awful to chase? Next up, expanding the theories, internet obsessions, and psychic madness that followed. Previously on Midnight Index. The police misstepped. The clues faded. And the only person who may have known the truth smiled behind bars. Now, 5. The theories. There are 2 types of disappearances. The ones that leave evidence. And the ones that feel surgical. The Springfield 3 falls into the latter. Let's start with the stranger theory. It's the simplest. And somehow, the most horrifying. Maybe it was someone passing through. A predator. A man with a plan. He parks. Waits. Watches. Knows that Suzie and Stacy arrive late. Knows Sherrill is already asleep. Maybe he breaks the porch light on purpose, darkening his entry. Maybe he knocks. They know him. Let him in. Or maybe they don't. But they open the door anyway. A threat. A gun. 3 women subdued. Quietly. Professionally. Without sound. Why would a stranger take all 3? Because they witnessed something? Because one was the target, and the others were loose ends? Or was it about control? Dominance? A thrill kill that spanned generations? Now the serial killer theory. I-44 runs through Springfield. It's one of America's busiest arteries for long-haul truckers. And statistically speaking, most serial killers stay mobile. Could a driver have stalked them? Followed them from the party? Known that Stacy and Suzie were planning to stay at Janelle's, but switched? That level of intel implies surveillance. Or coincidence. Either way, it makes the skin crawl. Now for the trafficking theory. This one emerged years later. Some locals believed there was a human trafficking ring operating out of nearby truck stops. Girls went missing. But nobody made the connection. Could Suzie and Stacy have been targets? Was Sherrill in the wrong place at the wrong time? They're taken. Drugged. Driven across state lines. Gone by sunrise. It fits. Sort of. But it's cold. Lacks motive. And leaves the same aching question. Why them? Finally, the personal connection theory. This one feels intimate. Maybe it was someone Suzie knew. An ex-boyfriend. A rejected admirer. Someone who felt entitled to her. And when she said no, it became war. Or maybe it was about Sherrill. Rumors say she may have learned something while doing hair, something she shouldn't have heard. Something dangerous. There were whispers of drug deals. Dirty cops. Or small-town corruption buried just below the surface. But all of this is fog. Tangible enough to be frightening. Not solid enough to solve. Which is scarier? A stranger in the night? Or someone you once called a friend? 6. Internet sleuths and the puzzle era. By the early 2000s, this case had been picked clean by the press. But the internet gave it new life. Web sleuths, Reddit, YouTube, cold case threads, all began crawling with people trying to solve the unsolvable. They redrew timelines, mapped out Suzie's route, tracked party locations, calculated who knew they were going back to her house. Many believe the voicemail was the key. That it was deleted by someone unaware of its value. Or by someone very aware. What if the message was threatening? Or a confession? Or someone trying to cover their tracks? We'll never know. The answering machine was taped over. A voice. Lost forever. Then came the TikTok era. Zoomers with cold case podcasts. Visual maps. Mini documentaries. People who weren't alive in 1992. But are now obsessed with what happened that night. The house on Del Mar has become a pilgrimage site. People film themselves outside. Some leave flowers. Others leave theories. 7. Psychics, Sylvia Browne, and the Myth Machine. In cases this dark, this quiet, people look for voices, even if they come from the other side. Over the years, dozens of psychics claimed visions. They said the women were buried near a creek, that they were trafficked across state lines, that one of them was still alive. Psychic Sylvia Browne went on national television in 1997. She said she saw the women beneath a field. Stacked, she claimed, as if she'd seen a crime scene photo. But when police followed up, there was nothing. Just grass. And silence. Some call psychics cruel. Others call them last resorts. In 1993, a psychic claimed Suzie's spirit appeared to her in a dream. "Go back to the house," she said. "Look under the concrete." Police did not. Another psychic claimed the killer would be revealed in 2020. That never happened. Is this desperation? Or the last hope for those who've been ignored too long? Next, the modern rumors. The parking garage tip. And one final look beneath Springfield's concrete silence. Now, let's step into the modern aftermath. 8. The hospital garage and GPR shadows. In 2007, an anonymous tip landed in the inbox of freelance reporter Rick Norland. It said, "The answers are beneath the parking garage at Cox Hospital." At first, he ignored it. Then curiosity won. He brought in ground-penetrating radar, GPR, to scan beneath the structure. What he found froze the blood of even hardened skeptics. 3 anomalies, roughly human-sized, laid out side by side, buried beneath a section of concrete that had been poured just after the women disappeared. Norland submitted his findings to the Springfield Police Department. They reviewed the images. They didn't dig. Why? The official answer: the garage was structurally critical. Digging would cost millions. And the evidence was inconclusive. Unofficially, some believe they were afraid of what they might find. Others think they didn't want the media firestorm. And some still believe nothing is there. The theory remains: someone who worked construction, who knew the schedule, may have hidden the bodies there, poured concrete on top, and walked away clean. Could the Springfield 3 be buried beneath a hospital, visited daily by thousands of people who have no idea? 9. Years later, DNA, cold files, and empty rooms. By the mid-2010s, technology had evolved. Genetic genealogy was solving decades-old murders across the country. Could it help here? Maybe, if the police had viable DNA. But no one has confirmed that publicly. Cold case units have re-reviewed the files. Some say key interviews were lost. Others point to misfiled evidence. The original investigator has retired. The leads have aged. The witnesses have moved, died, or forgotten. Still, the families remain. Janice McCall, Stacy's mother, is the anchor of this story. She has kept Stacy's room intact for over 30 years. The perfume still sits on the dresser. The voicemail machine, never unplugged. She believes one day, someone will confess. Suzie's family, too, has kept the pressure on. But as time passes, their voices are less heard. The tragedy now sits in archived articles. A footnote in national crime databases. A link that no longer loads. Is it possible that the killer is still alive? Still in Springfield? Still walking past that garage? 10. A whisper that never came back. Let's return to that house. That porch. That light bulb. Let's return to the front door. Unlocked. To the TV buzzing static. To 3 purses lined up like shoes left beside a bed. The Springfield 3 didn't run away. They didn't leave a note. They didn't plan it. And they didn't expect it. They were taken. Erased. Removed from their own story. As if the page was torn out mid-sentence. We do not know where they went. We do not know who did it. We only know that someone does. Somebody opened that door. Somebody shattered that light. Somebody stood over 3 women, and decided they would not see the morning. Was it rage? Jealousy? Or just opportunity? 30 years later, we still wait for a knock that never comes. A whisper that never returns. And a truth that remains sealed beneath a concrete town. Thank you for flipping through the case files with us. This has been Midnight Index. If you enjoyed this content, please consider liking and subscribing. Thanks. Until next time. Stay aware. And stay curious.